Morning everybody, hope you're all okay on this beautiful hot day in June, at the end of June, nearly into July. Happy solstice from the weekend. I've got my fan on today because it's so hot in here. I'll probably only last till about midday and then I'll have to leave. It's like a greenhouse. My plants are doing very well in here, but apart from that it's roasting. Let me know if you're here. Just give it a couple of minutes and see if anybody else comes in, and then we'll start. And today's theme is how to start and use a sketchbook. I know that it's something that a lot of students ask me about because it's not something that we use in our classes very often. People tend to bring in paper and pads to work in, watercolour pads and things like that, but not sketchbooks. And it's a really nice thing to do, is to add that to your collection and things that you do on a daily basis if you can. I've got a nice cool drink today, no tea, just some elderflower from last year actually. I had it in the freezer, still lovely. Anyway, okay, so sketchbooks. I have a vast collection of sketchbooks, some of which are filled, some of which aren't, some of which are in storage, and they span from sort of the late 1980s to current day, and they're really, really lovely to look back on and refer to. Especially in the development of your thought processes, and just as a record really, almost like a diary of your creativity. The nice thing about them is that they're private, and in this day and age, I mean, we're sharing here on Facebook almost everything. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that sort of thing. You're sharing. So most, unless you've got your settings on private or whatever, most of the things we do are now shared, and shared by other people as well. So the nice thing about a sketchbook is that it's something that you keep and you store away, and you may never show anybody what's inside that sketchbook. So yeah, that's a really beautiful thing about it. It's something that if you want to share, you can share with individuals and actually share something about yourself, sort of thoughts and feelings and private sketches that people may never see. I mean, if you look at the Turner collection at the Tate Gallery in London, which is now all online, including his sketchbooks, they're incredibly informative about him and what he got up to and where he went and what the weather was like, and all these things that inform your experience of looking at his paintings. So have a look at the Turner collection. Just go to Tate Britain and you'll find there's a section there, and you can just flip through all of his sketchbooks, including sketches from round here, because he worked at Carragkennan and down in Pembrokeshire. He did a lot of sketches around here, so that's really lovely. So what to do? Obviously what you've got to do is go and buy yourself a sketchbook. Now I have hundreds of the things. So I have these. I really like these. These are from Atlantis Arts in London. That's the name of the company. They're really cheap. They're just cardboard bound A4 sketchbooks. And you can see, if I just flip through, I don't know which way to do this, you can see that I fill them full of all sorts of stuff. Ideas, little tab drawings, notes. Let's have a look what else we've got in there. Large sketches, so you can work over 2 pages. That's of the path heading up to Penavan. Doodles, experiments with different media. So I do a lot of pen sketches, trees, blah blah blah. They also come. I've got another one here, which is just horses. So you've got, you know, things like that, and it's just a book full of horses. And I like drawing horses. I don't use horses in my work very often, but I just like to draw them. So that's A4. You've got A3, which is the same thing, Atlantis, art materials. And in here I've got I use these for life drawing. So I've got big drawings. They take the pastel and charcoal really well. Yeah. So you can get large and you can get even bigger sketchbooks. The medium sketchbooks that I've got these ones which are really lovely, and they're sort of landscape format, even though I've used it this way. But it's a landscape format, and obviously you can do sketches on the vertical, but you can do sketches on the horizontal as well. And it's nice to have that extra length of the book. Let me see now. Yeah. So these were sketches that I did on Skoma a couple of years ago. Yeah. The nice thing about a ring bound book, and this is what I mean by ring bound, this middle section here, is that you can flip it over and keep it flat. So that's really useful. I find getting hardback sketchbooks really useful as well, because then you have something to lean on rather than a softbacked sketchbook. Little drawings there. That's of Llyn. This was from when we did a sketchbook, a painting day down in Larne. So yeah, I really like that format. It gives you some extra space. And then you've got things like this, which are really cheap from sort of pound shops. Again, ring bound, nice paper. Try not to get paper that's shiny. So test the paper if you can. And this was just a project I did with the Cleest Horse and Pony Trust a few years ago, recording the area and what was going on up there. And you can see I'm using different media. You've got posh sketchbooks like these sort of moleskin one. This isn't a moleskin, but it's very similar. So you've got these sort of nicer bound, nicer. Let me find the first page. You know, you can put your details in the front. The paper tends to be a bit better quality. It's got one of these marker pages, and then it's got also an elastic to keep it closed. Let's have a look. So, like I said, I picked them up all over the place. This one was just, you know, a basic sketchbook. Hardback ones again, got hundreds of the things. The nice thing about hardback is that they go on your shelves really nicely and stack well. With a softback sketchbook, they tend to sort of fall down around you, you know. This one was just a record of shapes that I did for a project a while back using pen. Shapes to do with lichen and things like that. Again, I also make notes. I went to the Dunedin Literature Festival, and I take little books with me, which I make notes in about authors that I've seen. I also do drawings of people that are there, drawings while I'm there. etc., etc. Again, nice little sketchbook. Just using, I haven't actually used this yet, this one, but a line sketchbook can be quite interesting to use. And I bought this one at the Tate Gallery a few years ago. And this one it's a reversible sketchbook. So the front you open and it's got, I'm trying to make sure you can see this, it's got plain paper in it, like so, and then when you get to the back it flips over, it sort of flips over like that, and then on the back side you have a written section, which is nice if you want to make notes. So that's a two-in-one notebook really. You've got, on one side you've got your plain paper, and on the other side you've got your lined paper. That's quite clever. It's a foldable sketchbook. And then you've got your mini sketchbooks. So I've got things like this with lined paper in. You can just make notes in, things like that. And then there's this really cute one, which I picked up at the Film and Photography Museum in Amsterdam. And it's a keyring sketchbook, and it's just a little bound onto a keyring, and it's got cardboard either side, and then it's got paper inside. I haven't got round to using that yet, but it's quite a neat little idea. It's something that you can, it's very portable, and that you can attach to your handbag or whatever and just draw bits and bobs on, which is really lovely. Okay, so that's buying. Obviously you can buy sketchbooks anywhere, from WH Smith's to Wilko to pound shops to gallery shops. You can even pick them up as part of free workshops. So I did a workshop at Oriel Mervyn in Carmarthen, and we were given sketchbooks to use while we were on the workshop. So that was nice. Okay, so what's next? So we talked about where to buy them. Obviously spend as much money as you want on them. One of the things that I do say is just make sure that the paper is good quality, that it's got a sort of roughish surface rather than a shiny surface. You can make your own sketchbook. I'm going to put a link at the end of this art chat to a site which will show you how to make a variety of sketchbooks, really easy ones out of recycled materials, stitched ones, etc., etc. So yeah, at this moment in time, if you can't get out, you can always have a go at making. You only need some paper, and you can even use sort of newspaper and things like that to work on if you want to make a sketchbook. Keep it portable. Like I said, it needs to be not too heavy. You need to be able to put it in a bag. You need to be able to put it away if it rains. You know, all those sort of things. So keep it portable. Find the size that you are most comfortable with, and then you tend to buy that same size over and over and over again. Like I said, this size for me is good, because I don't like working too small. It's not too thick, it's not too heavy, and it's a spiral bound. It's got a hard back on it, so I tend to go for these sort of style of sketchbook. So once you've got your sketchbook, make sure that you put your details in it, just in case you leave it somewhere, you lose it. Really important. Just a name and a telephone number, just so that people can return them, because these things are very precious. And how do you start one? Well, there's all sorts of different ways. You can just doodle away. I always suggest to put the date on the page, maybe the location where you're sketching, maybe the kind of weather, the materials you're using. Put loads of information on there. It's always really useful. You might sort of look back and think, oh, how did I use that? How did I do that drawing? What materials did I use? And there you go, you have it, and the link is there, and then you can go and find them. Some people use templates. So again, on Pinterest or just on Google, if you just type in sketchbook templates, you can get little suggestions on how to do your sketchbook. So I've got one here, and I've just done a quick one of to do with flowers, if you can see that. And some people, what they like to do is they like to divide the paper up so that they've got little boxes to work in. And also you can sort of stick photographs on if you're working like this. This page is to do with flowers. So if you've got photographs that you've taken, or even photographs out of magazines, you can stick those down using it almost like a scrapbook. You can then put your details in one section. You can do some pencil drawings in another section. You can use colour in another section, and then experiment with how to sketch, different sketching ideas, what materials to use, and things like that. So that can be quite satisfying, especially if you're a mega organised person. I do work like this sometimes, but most of the time I just open the sketchbook and I draw, or I paint, or I use pastel or whatever, and I fill the page up, and I will make the odd note kind of thing. So yeah, it's really down to the individual. I know my daughter would love the template idea, because she likes to compartmentalize everything, and she's very organized. So like I said, for some people that is really useful, but for others you just, so it's a free-for-all, so you just go in and you do whatever you feel. So dividing the pages, treating it almost like a scrapbook, make it as interesting as possible. Don't just use pencil all the way through. It's all one of the reasons why you have a sketchbook, is so that you can experiment and play with ideas and make mistakes. It doesn't have to be perfect. Everybody thinks everything has to be perfect. It's not a good thing to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. So use your sketchbook to experiment, make mistakes. Like I said, if you don't like something, you can tear it out. You can cover it up. You can paint over it. You can do whatever you please. I tend not to. I think having a record of successes, failures, whatever you want to call them, don't really like the word failure, but things that haven't quite worked out. It's just really lovely to see the process, and for other people to see the process. One of the things that people love looking through when they come to my open studios, which has been cancelled this year, unfortunately. We were supposed to be doing it, Towie Valley Open Studios. There's information on our website about it. There will still be details about all the artists taking part on the website, so have a look. Towie Valley Open Studios, we were supposed to be open at in the middle of July, but obviously because of the coronavirus we've not been able to do that. But last year when people came, one of the things they loved to see were my sketchbooks. It's like a little window into somebody's brain and into their soul, and explains a bit how to people how the process of getting to a final finished piece. So that's really lovely. Draw, when it comes to what you fill it with, go outside. I mean, it's beautiful at the moment. If you can find some shade, go outside, draw from life. Really, really important to keep doing that and doing it regularly. If you can add to your sketchbook every day, another reason for keeping it portable. You can work. I work in them in front of the TV. I work when I'm traveling. I love doing that. The opportunity to sit on a train for 4 hours and just doodle and fill a sketchbook full of ideas is really, really satisfying. Be brave, draw everything, experiment with materials, use, biros, acrylic marker pens. These fine liner pens are lovely. you know, very portable. Just pencil is fine. You can charcoal, pastel, things like that you need to sort of fix if you can, or just put a piece of tracing paper over the top just so that it doesn't smudge. Obviously, wet media, you can get watercolour sketchbooks. So if you want to use wet media, then that would be the way forward. Although I do use watercolour in most of these. Most of the cartridge paper will stand up to a little bit of water or watercolour being put onto it, or even ink. So that's a nice thing to do. Obviously, transportation with that is difficult. You can get nice little travel watercolour sets to go with your small mini watercolour sketchbook. Like I said, try and draw every day. It's really therapeutic, and especially at the moment, it can be quite meditative, and it can draw your mind away from possible negative thoughts that you're having, and just make you focus. So that's another reason for trying to start a sketchbook, or even continuing to use a sketchbook. If you're stuck for ideas, there's these lists online again, and I'll put this up at the end. Daily challenges. So if you're not the sort of person, or even if you're having a bit of a moment where you can't think of anything to do, then go download one of these lists and just work your way through them. They can be really, really fun. Art challenges, they even have monthly drawing challenges now, like June, July, August, and blah blah blah. And that's a really cool thing to do. There's also a site that has templates or suggested templates for your sketchbooks, just outlines which you can use. You can get really fancy sketchbooks now that have sort of pockets in them. I don't know whether I've got any actually. I think this one here has a pocket in the back. Yeah. So this one has a pocket in the back. So if you make collections of things, I don't know what's in here. Oh, National Botanic Garden of Wales show ticket. So I must have taken it to the show, and so some sort of mind map from ages ago. Oh, that is from when I did my residency in Finland, so I could remember people's names. Because I'm dreadful at people's names, so I had to write them down. So I did this little mind map and whatever. So yeah, so ideas online. Pinterest is really good. Like I said, it's got loads and loads of ideas on there. I mean, you could spend your whole life looking at ideas. There are sketchbook apps for your tablets and iPhone smartphones, which I may do a little chat about next week, because I could go on forever here. But have a look at those. See if you can find the ones that you fancy yourself, and maybe you can join in on the chat. So yeah. Oh, yeah, well, an artist to look at with regard to using sketchbooks online, because he uses iPad all the time, is David Hockney. He's highly skilled at using the iPad and the drawing tools on iPad, which I'll talk about next week if I remember. There's a brilliant website. I think it's called the Sketchbook Museum, and they are this is in America, and they're setting up a museum of sketchbooks. And if you purchase the sketchbook from them, and then you fill it up, and then you send it back, it becomes part of the library. But on that website, you can also look at sketchbooks that have been produced by artists and amateurs and non-artists online there, and obviously that will give you lots of ideas. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed having a look at my sketchbooks. And please be inspired and go and buy yourself a sketchbook or make yourself a sketchbook and just get going. Especially seeing as we're not going to be able to have any classes until probably September at the earliest. It's a great way just to document your time before we start back up again. And yeah, okay. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave comments, ask questions, subscribe, and like these art chats in the same way that you would like my tutorials. I know that everybody enjoyed the Stonehenge Milky Way painting from Tuesday. Have a look at that if you haven't had a look already. I've been getting lots of positive feedback about that. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the week. I'm going to go for a swim now in the Salvi because it's so hot. My first freshwater swim of the year. So I'm really looking forward to it. All right. Bye, everybody. See you again next week. Okay. Ta-ra!